privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. The greatest privilege in life is not being loved, recognized, or applauded, but becoming yourself, even when no one sees it. According to Jung, true maturation does not happen in front of others. It happens in silence, where you face yourself without an audience. True maturity is not when others acknowledge your journey, but when you know exactly why you walk, even if no one else knows about it. This is the process Jung called individuation, the process of detaching from the need for validation in order to become an independent being who does not borrow meaning from others. We grow up in a world where rewards always come from the outside. As children, we are praised when we do well. As adults, we post achievements online in hopes of receiving recognition. But deep down, there is a truth everyone fears to face. Sometimes, no one will see you. You may have to build a new life quietly, heal wounds no one knows about, and keep trying every day without a single word of encouragement. And in those moments, many people stop, not because they lack ability, but because they cannot stand not being seen. Yet the paradox is, it is precisely in those moments that a different strength begins to form. When there is no one to rely on, you are forced to become your own foundation. When no one says, "I believe in you," you must be the first to say it to yourself. And that is the shift from a dependent self to a strong, autonomous one. In a group sharing session, a woman said that the hardest time in her life was not when she lost her job, but when she tried to start over without anyone supporting her. Her family said she was dreaming. Her friends advised her to choose an easier path. No one believed in her dream except herself. She said, "I learned how to become both my own audience and my own cheerleader." Then she smiled. The funny thing is that when I succeeded, everyone assumed I had always been confident. But I wasn't. I just stopped waiting for someone to believe in me first. That story strikes deep, because it is not about success. It is about the lonely threshold that everyone must cross, but few have the patience to stay in. The difference between someone who is mature and someone who only wants to be seen lies here. The immature person stops when there is no applause. The mature person continues, even when no one cares. A mature person does not need an audience to define their value. They do not act to be praised. They act because it is true to their nature. At that point, action is no longer a means of proving something. It becomes a natural expression of inner strength. If you realize you have been living to be acknowledged, you are not wrong. We all begin there. But there comes a time when you must learn to stand without anyone pushing you from behind. The first step is to look at where you still rely on external reinforcement. Do you only act when someone reminds you? Do you need praise to feel that what you do matters? Do you give up faster when no one knows you are trying? These questions are not to make you feel guilty, but to help you see what is holding you back. True strength does not come when you are recognized, but when you no longer need recognition to continue. When you walk for yourself, the path changes. It is no longer a journey to prove anything. It becomes a journey back to your most authentic self. And to stand strong without an audience, you must learn to see the ego, the part of you that always wants to be seen, praised, and validated. Because if you do not recognize it, you will keep chasing the gaze of others and lose yourself in the process.
Lenoir Luftfrisch Weichspüler. Für Wäsche, die an der frischen Luft getrocknet.
process. Number 2. Fighting in the presence of the ego. There are times when we believe we are fighting for values, for truth, for what is right. But if we look closely, many of the battles in life have nothing to do with truth at all. They revolve around one thing: our ego wanting to win. A look, a sentence touches a vulnerable place inside, and immediately we react, not to defend truth, but to defend the image we want others to have of us. Imagine a simple disagreement between you and a close friend. At first, it is just a difference in perspective, but within seconds, you begin feeling the need to be right. You want to prove that you understand more, that you are more thoughtful, that the other person is wrong. The conversation is no longer about understanding. It becomes a battlefield to defend your self-image. The result is not clarity. It is two hearts growing colder, further apart. The frightening part is not whether you win or lose. It is that you no longer know what you are fighting for. In Jungian psychology, the ego is the part of us that craves recognition, to be understood, respected, seen as right. It is not evil. It is just not yet mature. When the ego controls us without our awareness, we start living in reaction rather than awareness. The ego wants to be defended, while the self wants to be true. But to reach the self, we must free ourselves from the need to be seen. I am reminded of the image of a mirror placed in a crowded marketplace. Whoever walks past, the mirror reflects them. The ego works the same way. It reflects us based on the eyes of others. When someone praises us, we expand. When someone criticizes us, we shrink. Just one sentence from someone can determine our mood and our sense of worth. That means we are not living for ourselves. We are living in response to external fluctuation. A viewer once shared that she hated when someone disagreed with her. Not because she thought they were wrong, but because the feeling triggered a deeper fear. The fear of being looked down on. She said, "Every time someone tells me I'm wrong, I feel like I disappear." As a child, whenever she made a mistake, her mother did not say the action was wrong. She said she was the problem. "You disappoint people. You make me ashamed." Her ego was built on the fear of being diminished. So in adulthood, every disagreement became a battlefield. Jung called this the shadow of self-love, when the ego is not arrogant, but a trembling child trying to protect itself from shame. When we understand this, we stop blaming ourselves for reacting and begin seeing the child inside calling for help. A fitting example is Achilles in Greek mythology. Achilles was strong, legendary, and unbeatable. Yet all that power was driven by an ego craving immortal glory. That ego dragged him into countless unnecessary battles. In the end, what destroyed him was not an enemy, but a small, weak point he refused to acknowledge. Achilles did not fall because he lacked strength, but because he did not understand himself. Humans are the same. We are not defeated by the world, but by the most easily touched parts inside us. To fight alone, we must learn to recognize when the ego is directing us, and one simple way is through the body. When the ego rises, the body feels tense, hot, ready to react. When the self speaks, the body feels soft, clear, and unhurried. You can try a very small but powerful practice. When someone says something that triggers you, do not react immediately. Take a breath. Place your hand over your chest. Ask, "Am I trying to protect what is true? Or am I trying to protect my image?" If the answer is the image, you can choose silence. Not silence to endure, but silence to return to yourself. Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but will grow in size." The more we try to defend the ego, the more it controls us. But when we look at it directly, it begins to dissolve. When you are no longer fighting to be seen, you begin fighting for what is real. And at that moment, you are no longer alone. The self is always there, quiet, deep, steady. It does not need to win. It only needs to be true. Share your story in the comments, just one small moment when you realized your reaction was not to defend truth, but to defend your image. Perhaps your story will touch someone who is quietly learning to return to themselves. And the light you find in today's darkness may become the light that helps them see their own path tomorrow. Number 3. Inner confidence. Discipline when no one is watching. And from the moment you stop waiting for someone to comfort or validate you, you begin to understand something far greater. Strength does not come from crowded rooms. It is forged in hours no one sees. It is not the moment on stage that shapes character, but the quiet mornings when the world is still asleep and you sit with yourself. No audience, no applause, no one knowing you are trying. Discipline in solitude is like tending a small flame in the night. No one sees its glow, but if you neglect it, the darkness will swallow you. If you keep it alive, slowly, it becomes the light that guides your entire journey. I once knew a woman who lived alone in a small apartment in the suburbs. No one knew she woke up at 5 a.m. every day. No one saw her unroll her meditation mat, breathe slowly, then write a single line in her journal. Today, I will keep my promise to myself. No one praised her for studying a foreign language each evening, while others scrolled social media or watched movies. No one witnessed her choosing long-term growth over short-term pleasure. If one day she becomes successful, the world may say, "She's so lucky." But only she knows that her luck was built out of countless quiet mornings no one saw. She did not practice discipline to show anyone. She practiced it to become someone she could trust. This is like the roots of a tree. When we look at a tall, resilient tree standing firm in the storm, we admire its branches and leaves. But what keeps it standing does not lie above. It lies deep below, in the darkness where no one can see. The roots become strong by growing downward, slowly, silently. So do we. Strength is not built on the surface, but in the private depths, where you choose to continue. Even when no one is watching. From a Jungian perspective, discipline is not simply forcing yourself to do things. It is a ritual, a sacred commitment between you and yourself. Jung once wrote, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell. To become strong, you must train in the unseen hours." When Jung spoke of individuation, the journey of becoming oneself, he did not speak of grand gestures. He spoke of small choices, repeated daily, that slowly weave the scattered pieces of the psyche into a unified whole. Discipline is not effort, it is remembrance. Each time you keep a habit, you strengthen your inner allegiance to yourself. Neuroscience supports this. When you repeat small habits, writing, meditating, and exercising, the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for decision-making, grows stronger. These neural pathways link daily discipline to self-trust. The more you show up for yourself, the more your brain believes you are someone worth relying on. Confidence no longer comes from praise, it comes from evidence. You have stayed with yourself. And when this happens, solitude is no longer frightening. Solitude becomes your training ground. Because once you know how to stand alone, you no longer need anyone as a pillar, and that is the deepest form of freedom. Not everyone understands this journey. Many can only act when being watched, only persist when being praised, only try when they have company. But when the lights go out, their motivation goes with it. The person who knows how to practice discipline when no one is watching will go further than anyone expects, without needing anyone to push them. There will be days when you are tired, mornings when you don't want to wake up, evenings when you don't want to continue. But it is precisely on those days that your identity is shaped. True character is not born from inspiration, but from choosing to continue, even when inspiration disappears. And one day, a quiet realization will come. The place you once feared, solitude, was where you found